What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today is December 25th. It is Christmas. So from Comic Breakdown to all of you wonderful fans, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I really do hope that you guys are enjoying this day. With it being Christmas, we're only gonna cover one comic today. With it being our Indie Comics weekend, with it being Sunday, we're gonna dive into the world of indie comics. Today's comic is the OZ. This is issue number 1. This is dropping us into the wonderful, magnificent world of the Wizard of Oz, with writer David Pepose taking the Wizard of Oz and reimagining it. But this is not the Wizard of Oz that you remember. This is a worn-torn Oz. Different factions, flying monkeys dropping bombs, the Tin Man becoming the indestructible soldier. Because after Dorothy left Oz all those years ago, she thought it was safe. She thought that there would be peace. But Dorothy, she was so very wrong. Like I had said previously, this is written by David Pepose, who is currently writing the Savage Avengers line. The artwork is by Ruben Rojas. Colors is Whitney Cougar. Lettering is DC Hopkins. Now, make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up with a woman and a young girl. They are making their way through the very torn up streets of Oz, because Oz in recent years has seen nothing but war, but turmoil, but destruction. As these two civilians make their way through all of the wreckage, that is when one of the flying monkeys comes to try and capture them. With the older woman getting grabbed, she tells the young girl to run and follow the yellow brick road. And that is what is going to take us to Dorothy Gale. That is what takes us to Kansas. We have a young woman holding a pistol wearing an army t-shirt. This woman's name is Dorothy, but she is being called by her grandmother. Going into that room, we see this to be the original Dorothy, the one from the Wizard of Oz. Except the years, they have added up. She finds herself an old woman, on oxygen, looking as if life isn't long for her. With our young Dorothy coming into the room, we learn a little bit of history about these individuals. You see, Grandma Dorothy, she took Dorothy in at a very young age, gave her everything. A home, an education, even her first name. Grandma Dorothy inspired her to see the world. That is what inspired her to join the military. It has been 6 months since her return back from rotation. She has seen action all over Iraq. You would think for her that Kansas, it would be a relatively easy place to come back to. But when you've been in war, when you have seen the worst humanity has to offer, when you have been trained to kill day in and day out, coming back to regular everyday society can be one of the most difficult tasks a soldier can ever do. Because pretending to live in a world where you didn't see the worst humanity has to offer, pretending that you didn't have that trauma, pretending like you are just an average everyday American, it can be very daunting. And young Dorothy, she is very much facing the symptoms of PTSD. She tries to live her life. She tries to be peaceful. She tries her best to stay out of trouble. But sometimes trouble happens to find her. Today, that trouble comes in the form of 2 young men. The 2 of them at a local convenience store. They are currently harassing the clerk. They are harassing him because he is Middle Eastern. After 9/11, this was a very common thing. Iraqi people, Middle Eastern people as a whole, were really demonized. They were treated less than. They were seen as the enemy. As Dorothy goes in to save this man, scaring off the boys, we learn that this man, he is not happy for her saving him. In fact, he is angry with her. He is angry with her because he knows that she was a soldier, that America's war with Iraq is the reason that he ended up here to begin with. a man who was once a doctor in Ramadi. Now in America, he can get no other job besides working as a gas station attendant. Even when Dorothy is trying to do some good, there is always somebody that is going to bring her down. And if being awake isn't enough, even in her dreams, she dreams of the horror, of the bloodshed, of the flames of hell that she has had to endure. Waking up from the nightmares this night, she finds herself going and grabbing her gun, leaving a note for her grandmother. Trying to do this all away from everybody, she gets into her vehicle and she drives down the road, driving far enough away that no one is around. Dorothy's demons have caught up with her. The war has taken its toll, and this night, Dorothy plans to end her life as she puts that gun up to her chin, getting ready to end everything. That is when a tornado hits. Dorothy getting ready to move the vehicle out of the tornado's path. In this moment, she realizes that she's not looking for death. In this moment, she realizes that she still wants to live because she could let the tornado take her. She could end it all right here and not have to worry about using a gun. And no matter how she may have been feeling, those feelings of taking her own life, they have disappeared. Now she struggles to save her life. She struggles to get out of the way of this tornado. Unfortunately, she gets stuck in the mud and it is already too late. Getting swept up into this tornado, she finds herself landing on the other side. The vehicle absolutely destroyed, but that is the least of her problems, because looking up to the sky, this is where she sees a horde of flying monkeys. These monkeys carrying bombs. They begin dropping them. Now Dorothy is running for her life, not knowing what is going on, not knowing where she is. This is definitely not Kansas. As she starts to get her situational awareness, she sees that she is in the middle of a war. Dozens of straw men, flying monkeys overhead, the carnage, the chaos. She tries to hide. She tries to gather her thoughts, figure out what is going on, where she is, and how to get out of this situation. Still having her pistol in hand, she goes to take some shots. Coming up from behind this brick wall, she starts laying lead downrange, only for one of those rounds to ricochet and it hits her in the head. Just a scratch, but she is bleeding, causing her vision to be obscured. This is when a shadowy figure lets her know not to move, that she has been injured, but still she tries to fight. She throws punches only to almost break her freaking hand. Then we see that shadow offer a hand, right before she passes out due to her injury. Thinking, is that a metal hand? That shadowy figure steps out of the shadows, steps into vision, and we know this to be the Tin Man. The Tin Man looking at Dorothy, saying that this looks just like her. There is no mistaking that this is the descendant of Dorothy the Good, the rightful Princess of Oz, and he welcomes her to the occupied zone, aka the OZ. And taking place in a different location, this is where we see Jack, aka Pumpkinhead, and this is also where we see the Monkey King, king of all the flying monkeys. With Dorothy's arrival, the Scarecrow is taking great interest in this, because it looks like the Scarecrow, once a good companion to Dorothy, now works on the side of evil. A piece has been dropped onto the chessboard. A piece that could change the entire war. That is what takes us to Chapter 2. We are picking up with Dorothy and Stanton, one of the men that she fought in war with. As these two are pinned down, they are taking heavy fire. They flip a coin to see which one of them is going to run out and make the distraction so the other can get away. Stanton loses the coin toss. He gets ready to lay down some suppressive fire. As he puts bullets downrange, that is when he is hit. He is incinerated. Dorothy, waking up from this nightmare, almost instantaneously, she runs. Not knowing where she is, what's going on, she runs and she does not stop. Looking around as she runs, seeing everything that she sees, recognizing that everything that has happened so far is not a dream. that everything Grandma Dorothy had ever told her was real. This is when she runs into the Tin Soldier. This is where she sees the Wizard, welcoming Dorothy to the Resistance. Dorothy wastes no time going in on the Tin Man. Recognizing that he has armor some kind of Kevlar, she tries to get underneath it. She tries to take it off. But this is when she recognizes that this man is made of armor. His entire body is armor. The Wizard shouting to stop, that they are not her enemy, saying that the Tin Soldier, he went through a great deal of trouble to bring her back alive, that their world is in great danger, and Dorothy might be the only one who can save it, letting her know that this is the magical land of Oz. But what has happened to Oz? What has happened to this great kingdom? It happened from within. Now, we all know the story of the Wizard of Oz, once a peaceful place. That, of course, is until the Wicked Witch of the West made her play, ravaging the countryside with black magic and evil monkeys. All had seemed lost with the Wicked Witch in control. That, of course, is until 4 brave companions united to end her terror. They were the Tin Soldier, the Scarecrow, the Courageous Lion, and Grandma Dorothy. After the demise of the Wicked Witch, their land was finally at peace. But this was only short-lived, with Dorothy returning home, with the Wizard going and exploring the globe. For the people standing there at the time, the choice for new leadership was very obvious. They were gonna choose the man with the brain. That is Scarecrow. But Oz was left in a very odd state, because now that that power was gone, now that the tyrannical leader had been destroyed, chaos ensued across the land of Oz. Many places outside of the territories, they turned into lawless zones. Gangs of munchkins, winged monkeys, just destroying, harassing, doing everything that they could ever want. Inside the Emerald City, there was a glimmer of safety. And so this Scarecrow, harnessing the Wicked Witch's evil sorcery, he became both a genius and a madman. Possessed with almost limitless power, he controlled through fear, creating an army of straw men to do his bidding. He brought the land of Oz into a new era. The first to face against him was Glinda the Good. But even her magic wasn't enough for the dragon's napalm. And then you have the Animal Kingdom, led by the Courageous Lion. He formed a scattered resistance, using cells throughout the land of Oz. They made strategic attacks against Scarecrow and his army. But there was one battle, one where everybody believes the Courageous Lion, he fell. They believe he died in combat. While there are rumors that the Courageous Lion is still out there, with the death or supposed death of the Courageous Lion, that is where the Tin Soldier did what he did, coming out of retirement, rebuilding himself into a living war machine. It cost him his heart, but he is one of the greatest assets that face against Scarecrow and his army, and they have all learned the truth. This Scarecrow, he is looking for those slippers. No one knows where the Wicked Witch of the West slippers have gone off to. Glinda hid them, knowing what Scarecrow's ultimate endgame was. Scarecrow wants to invade the entire multiverse. Their only hope, stopping Scarecrow before he finds the slippers. This is when Dorothy, she decides to look behind the curtain, and what she sees is Toto. Grandma Dorothy's dog had come to the land of Oz. Because of the land of Oz having its mystical properties, because of the Animal Kingdom, Toto is able to live way past the years that he should have originally. It also granted him the power to speak. He goes on to let her know that unless they can defeat the Scarecrow, this world and untold others, they are going to be enslaved. With her being a descendant of Dorothy the Good, there is a possibility she could end the war, that she could free Oz. Now, Dorothy, thinking all of this is insane, it's all too much, she simply just wants to go home. And while Toto, he's a little bit disappointed. He understands, letting her know that there is an encampment outside the deadly desert that they can go to, one that she may be able to find passage home. And so they ride beyond the Fiddlestick Forest and the Shadow Mountains, past the Munchkin work camps and the Wiki graveyards, much further than the reach of the Emerald Curtain itself. They finally arrive, a capital of human misery, Oz's last hope, the Deadly Desert. They make their way through the crowds, keeping themselves hidden. As Dorothy looks around, she cannot help but recognize the comparisons to both the Middle East and the Land of Oz. Seeing the war-torn land, it reminds her too much of the war that she had lived through. But as they make their way through the crowds, there is a rumbling. This rumbling is coming from the bombs being dropped by the flying monkeys. They are killing everybody and everything, with the Tin Soldier getting Dorothy into hiding, letting her know that she has to stay here because he cannot fight them and protect her. And so the Tin Man going out to do the fighting, Dorothy staying behind with some locals. This local offering her up a tiny little fairy. Dorothy recognizes that she can't stay in here, that these people, they need help, and she has the power, she has the ability to be able to help them. Dorothy taking that fairy, and she makes a makeshift flamethrower. Running outside, she starts burning flying monkeys. The Tin Soldier throwing her into the air. Dorothy is taking down flying monkeys left and right, taking out the air superiority that they have. As Dorothy and one of these flying monkeys, they crash into a building. Dorothy coming out of the smoke, coming out of the rubble, carrying this monkey limp in her hand. This is where she makes her proclamation, letting them all know to tell all their friends to get out of here and never come back. To get the message out to the entire resistance that they wanted a soldier. They wanted Dorothy the Good. They wanted to turn the tide of this battle. That time has come. They wanted a leader. They wanted the soldier. Well, now they got one. And what comes next is all-out war. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, for those of you that have been with the channel for a long time, you'll know that we covered this issue. I really felt it needed a remastering just because the quality of my channel 2 years ago is nothing in comparison to what it is today. And this being arguably my favorite comic of all time, I think it's one that definitely deserves it. Now, David Pepose, he's never been to war, but he is very good at being able to depict what it is to have PTSD, what it is to come home and deal with the struggle of being home. Because when you are at war, life is simple. There are no bills. There are no politics. It is get up, go on patrol, try not to die, come back, go to sleep, repeat. You do this day in and day out. Every single day you wake up knowing that today could be the day that you die. That when you go outside that wire, there is a chance that somebody is going to try to kill you. That when you go take a shower, there is a chance that a mortar could land on the bathrooms. You live in the shadow of death. You live, eat, and breathe this. So coming back home can be one of the most difficult tasks that you have ever faced. And David Pepose does a phenomenal job of being able to really nail that down. You know, at this point, I think I've lost probably 6 or 7 friends to suicide since we returned back home. It is a constant struggle for many, many veterans. And so David Pepose has illustrated this in the most elegant and beautiful way possible. A sick fantasy that many veterans don't talk about is the fact that we would go back to war in a heartbeat. It is where we thrive. It is where we are at our best. And that is exactly what Dorothy is getting. She is getting the opportunity to go help, to save, to be in that war zone again, to feel that adrenaline. She is now back in her element. Now, there's a book that I would highly recommend many people go ahead and go find or read in some way, shape, or form. The book is called Wargasm, written by Leonardo Gallia, and it talks about this relationship that we have, the relationship that we have with death. How even though we know that war is the worst of places, there is a sense of longing for that war, to be back in the suck. And it is so beautifully written into this comic. It is such a good and accurate depiction of what it is to be a soldier, what it is like to live through it, so on and so forth. But even more than that, this is a beautiful reimagining of the Wizard of Oz. A worn-torn Oz, broken up into factions. What was once friends have become foes. What was once earned and won was given up to make themselves weapons of war. I cannot preach this enough that this comic is hands down some of the best stuff that I have ever read. Maybe it's biased because of my time in service, but holy crap, man, this is such a good comic. The reimagining of Wizard of Oz itself is just such a great idea, and David Pepose knows exactly what to do with it. But let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. We will be covering issue 2 in the near future, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. Issue number 3, it is not even in Kickstarter yet, but when it is in Kickstarter, I will let you guys know, and we will definitely be putting that link up so you guys can support the comic. You can buy the hard copy, so on and so forth. Make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure you're hitting the notification bell. And with that being said, until the next breakdown.